رمضان يا خير الشهور يا فضل رحمن غفور.
السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. اشہد ان لا الہ الا اللہ وحدہ لا شریک لہ واشہد ان محمدا عبدہ ورسولہ. اما بعد فاعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. Allah the Almighty says in this verse that I have recited that when a servant of mine asks you about me, tell my servant I am near and I listen to his or her prayers when they call upon me. Now that we're passing through the blessed last 10 days of Ramadan, the last ashra of this blessed and the holiest month, our focus now has become even more laser sharp. Our efforts should have gained even more momentum and speed in worshipping Allah Ta'ala and praying to Him and pleasing our Creator and to get closer to Him. I believe a week or two ago presented a dars on the topic of قبولیت dua, acceptance of prayers, where I had shared some incidents from the lives of Ahmadi Muslims who currently reside in Virginia. And after I had delivered that some individuals had the desire that I should speak on members of Detroit Jamaat and their acceptance of dua, incidents of their acceptance of dua. So over the course of last few days or so, I had been reaching out, and some of the members were very kind and they shared their experiences with me, and that is what I intend to share here with all of you. Some of these incidents may appear to be minuscule in a worldly person's eye, but not even one of them is small in the eyes of Allah Ta'ala, or in the eyes of the one who experienced this sign. Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam, I believe, has written in one of his poems, قدرت سے اپنی ذات کا دیتا ہے حق ثبوت, اس بے نشاں کی چہرہ نمائی یہی تو ہے. قدرت سے اپنی ذات کا دیتا ہے حق ثبوت, that Allah Ta'ala shows that He exists by manifesting His power. اس بے نشاں کی چہرہ نمائی یہی تو ہے. The one who does not have a physical face, He, our Allah, is known by manifesting Himself in this way. In another place, Hazrat Masih Maud ﷺ stated, our Allah is known by the sign of the acceptance of prayers. हमारा खुदा कबूलियत दुआ के निशान से जाना जाता है. So this is what we believe. What is the difference between the other Muslims and us? There are many Muslims who also believe that Isa alayhi salam has passed away. There are many Muslims who believe that nothing of the Quran can be abrogated. There are Muslims who believe out there that Allah Ta'ala has not seized the door of wahi and Allah Ta'ala still communicates. So what is the difference? Among other theological differences, with the fact that we have Khilafat and the Mahdi and the Messiah has come, there is one fundamental difference, which I think is probably one of the biggest ones. And that is the fact that we hold dear the idea that Allah Ta'ala listens to our prayers, more so than other Muslims or any other individual or community on the face of the earth. And among Ahmadi Jamaat, Allah Ta'ala's promises with the Khalifa that his prayers will be answered the most. There is a reason why Millions and millions of people write letters to Huzur and he prays for them. And then Allah Ta'ala shows signs upon signs of acceptance of his dua. In my previous dars I mentioned that many individuals write to Huzur about something and then they pray to Allah Ta'ala, we have written to your Khalifa, so accept your Khalifa's prayer. Your promise is there for the Khalifa's prayers, so we've written to him, so now when he prays for us, you accept his prayer because he's dear to you. And many individuals were able to see signs of acceptance of dua in this way. But Allah Ta'ala, it's not that Allah Ta'ala only listens to the prayers of Khalifatul Masih. Khalifatul Masih also wants us to pray directly to Allah Ta'ala. I remember during COVID, there was one of the graduating classes of Jamia Ahmadiyya UK. They would have these weekly classes. I think they were having twice a week, 1 hour long classes, which were taken by Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Ayyadahullah Ta'ala ibn Aziz in Masjid Mubarak. And these blessed individuals, these graduates of Jamia UK would sit in Masjid Mubarak, and this is happening during peak COVID, in lockdown. They are sitting in the masjid and Hazur is sitting in front of them, and Hazur is teaching them twice a week, 1 hour each, about the books of promised Messiah ﷺ. And I remember reading the article of Asif Basir Sahib, I believe, in which he mentioned that Hazur would also give them homework or assignments that these graduates would work on. So our beloved Hazur pays special attention, and he wants us, every single one of us, not just the missionaries, he wants every single one of us to have certainty in our heart that Allah Ta'ala will accept our dua. So during that time, the National Secretary Tabligh of UK Jamaat, who is an Arab and Waqf Zindagi, he became sick with COVID and he was hospitalized and his condition was extremely bad. He was on ventilator and it was not sure if he would even make it out. So his wife, whose name is Reem Sahiba, she and her husband's name is Akhlaf, Ibrahim Akhlaf. So Reem Sahiba asked one of the MTA members who was having a mulaqat with Huzur to ask Huzur about, if Huzur has prayed for her husband. And because she had been writing to Huzur. And Huzur responded towards the end of that meeting, I believe it was with Munir Odesal. Huzur mentioned, tell Reem nothing will happen to Ibrahim. And lo and behold, the man who was at the verge of dying had a 180-degree progress. And Allah Ta'ala turned his situation around and he survived. And during that time frame, I believe Huzur even sent homeopathy medication for him as well. So one of these Jamia graduate students asked Huzur, how did you know? How did you know that Ibrahim Sahib would survive? That he won't die, even though his condition was extremely bleak, it was as if he's not going to make it. And Ibrahim Akhlaf Sahib is not that old. At that time, Huzur said, sometimes I say with conviction and I have this faith in my heart that Allah Ta'ala will accept my dua. And then Huzur said, you should also have that conviction in your heart that Allah Ta'ala will accept your dua. So when we pray to Allah Ta'ala, don't pray half-heartedly or thinking, man, this thing is so difficult. I don't think it would happen. You've already lost the battle the moment you think that something is difficult for Allah Ta'ala. I think I've mentioned this before. It was my first year in Jamia Ahmadiyya, Canada. I went to the library and there was this whiteboard, and on that whiteboard someone had written, I don't know who did, but someone had written, खुदा को ये ना बताओ कि तुम्हारी मुश्किल कितनी बड़ी है, अपनी मुश्किल को ये बताओ कि तुम्हारा खुदा कितना बड़ा है. Don't tell Allah how difficult your problem is. Or how big your problem is. Tell your problem how big your Allah is. To this day, it's been almost 18 years since that day? 18 years have gone by. And I feel as if I can still see that whiteboard and that inscription on it. And I've stood by that. I've lived by it. Whenever any difficulty comes in your life, pray to Allah Ta'ala and then have that faith that Allah Ta'ala will remove it. Now I would like to share some incidents from the lives of our local Ahmadi Muslims who belong to Detroit Jamaat. First, I would like to share an incident that one of our beloved Auntie Amtul Bari Nasir Saiba has shared with me. Although she shared many incidents, but due to the limitation of time, I have chosen 2 of those incidents. She mentioned that because she used to serve in a very high position in Lajna Maila Karachi. So she mentioned that oftentimes her children would have their exams or tests the next day, and she would be busy with Lajna work, with Jamaat work. And she prioritized doing Jamaat work over personal things. So she says that whatever little bit that she could teach her children or revise the syllabus with them, whatever little bit of the syllabus that she was able to revise with her children, the next day when the children would go to school or college or wherever they were, the exact same thing, down to the T, that she was able to revive with the children was exactly the exam paper. As if the exam paper, in other words, was, as if Allah Ta'ala had put it in her heart that teach these things. She was doing Allah Ta'ala's work, and then Allah Ta'ala took care of her work. Some may think that this is small. This is not small. It's a very big deal. Imagine the person who witnessed this sign, and not once. She says it happened many times over. Imagine. Another incident that Auntie Bari has shared, she says that when they used to live in Pakistan, Karachi, her husband, Uncle Nasir, was serving, I believe, in one of the official departments of the government sector. And he retired, and now they had to leave the government-issued residence, and they had to move into their private residence. So when they moved into their private residence, right next to their house was an empty lot. Somebody owned that lot, but they had not put 4 walls there. So maybe there were a few walls, but not entirely. A structure was not built. So people started misusing that plot, and they started dumping their garbage over there. And it was right adjacent to their house. And slowly but surely, the garbage started to pile up. And Auntie Bari says that her husband would go and request different officials, please have this taken care of. They would promise, but nothing would be done. To a point where 2-3 years went by. And every single day, the entire street, different people from the street are coming there and dumping garbage over there. And the smell and the garbage is reaching directly in their home, the house of Auntie Bari. Those of you who may not know, Auntie Bari is the mother of Dr. Mansoor Qurashi Sahab, who is our Naib Sadr, Detroit Jamaat, and Mahmood Qurashi Sahab, who is our Zayman Sarullah. So she says that garbage would be reaching their house, and of course the stench from it, the gate cannot keep it out. It became extremely unbearable, and she says that she feared as if, they are gonna get sick. At that time she realized that for every little thing we write to our Khalifa, and she had not written to Huzur. So she says that she wrote a letter to Khalifa Masih Rabi Rahimahullah Ta'ala, and soon after that, remember something that had been delaying for 2-3 years, and here she writes a letter to the Khalifa of the time and asking him to pray. And she says one day in the morning, a man showed up in his car, and behind him was a private truck, which was not owned by the government. So we know for a fact that it was not government issued action. So a person came in his car, brought a private truck, and they started to load the garbage. And several loads later, the entire street was cleaned up. She says, if this was not a miracle of the acceptance of dua of the Khalifa, we don't know what else would be. So for many of us who live in America or Western countries, this thing is unheard of, that people would come and start throwing garbage outside your house. But in third world countries, it's unfortunately very common. And look how Allah Ta'ala came to her aid. The next incident that I have is, I'm going to share. This is shared to me by Fawzia Qureshi Saiba. She is the daughter-in-law of Auntie Bari. And Fawzia Saiba says that her father was the missionary of the Jamaat, Maulana Sultan Mahmud Anwar Sahib, a very famous missionary of our Jamaat. And so she shared a couple of incidents from the life of her parents. She shared with me an article that her mother had written when Maulana Sultan Mahmud Anwar Sahib passed away. It was, I believe, published in Al-Fazl. So in it, Maulana Sahib's wife says that once during previous Khulafa's time, Maulana Sultan Mahmud Anwar Sahib was sent to Bangladesh as a representative of Khalifatul Masih. And when he was there for the Jalsa Salana, all of a sudden a mob came, similar to a mob that came and attacked our Jalsa, a month and a half or two ago. Same thing happened at that time. A mob came to attack and disrupt the Jalsa. And at that time, Maulana Sahib prayed to Allah Ta'ala and said, Allah Ta'ala, usually, I'm able to write to Khalifatul Masih or I'm able to phone him up. I get the message to the Khalifatul Masih and he prays. But I am in a place and I am in a situation where my voice, my words, my request cannot reach Khalifatul Masih. So I beseech your help that for the sake of your Khalifa, please destroy the plans of the enemies and let our Jalsa proceed as scheduled. And something happened that the people that had come there to disrupt the Jalsa, they started infighting. Something happened and then they left. So they did not get the opportunity to disrupt our Jalsa. Another incident that she shared is when Maulana Sultan Mahmud Sahib's son Salman was a young baby, probably 9 months old or basically a young child. And he became sick with this fever. I don't know the medical term for it, but in Urdu it's called Gardan Tod Bukhar. Meningitis. He became inflicted with this fever, meningitis. And the young baby's neck stiffened up and the eyes rolled up. And, she says that she was crying. And Maulana Sultan Mahmud Anwar Sahib, kept his composure and said that, let's take the child to the hospital. They took the child to the very place where the child was born. And the same doctor who had delivered the baby was now looking after the baby. And she was not sure if the child would survive. And Auntie writes that she was crying. The doctor was pacing back and forth, worrying what's going to happen. And Maulana Sahib said, let me call Hazur. So he called Khalifatul Masih Salas, rahmahullah. He called Hazur's residence. And Hazur had gone for namaz, so Begum Saiba answered the phone. And she said, give me the message and I'll deliver to Hazur when Hazur will arrive or come back. So while she was receiving this message from Maulana Sahib, Hazur walked in. So she said, hold up, Hazur is here. Let me give the phone to him. So Maulana Sultan Mahmud Anwar Sahib mentioned that he spoke to Hazur and mentioned, Hazur, this is the condition of the child. And this is what the doctor is saying. Hazur said, fikr na kare, he'll be fine. He, right away said Jazakallah to Hazur, hung up the phone, came back, and the doctor was waiting outside and saying, I was hoping that this child was born in my hands and nothing would happen to him, but I'm not sure if I would be able to do anything in order to save the child. And Maulana Sahib says, I just spoke with Hazur and our Khalifa, and he has told me that my son will be fine. The doctor left Maulana Sahib, went inside, and the moment she went inside, she saw that the child had closed his eyes. And the stiffened neck was now absolutely fine. And the fever had subsided. And she was astonished, and he said, the boy is perfectly fine. All it took was that one sentence from Khalifatul Masih Salis. Similar incident happened with Maulana Abdul Malik Khan Sahib, whose son Anwar Mahmud Khan Sahib is the National Secretary Tariq-e-Jadid of US Ijma. It happened at the time of Hazrat Muslim Maud that Maulana Abdul Malik Khan Sahib's wife was ill. Probably she delivered a baby and then she developed fever. And the doctor said that there is no way that she can survive. And he left everything and came straight to, I think, Rabwa, where Hazur was. And went to Hazur's residence, either Rabwa or Qadian, one of the two places. Went straight to Qasr-e Khilafat, and Hazur answered the door. Hazur came outside, Hazrat Muslim Maud, and Maulana Abdul Malik Khan Sahib mentioned, Hazur, this is the condition the doctor is saying, my wife is not going to survive. And he says that Hazur started to pray. Hazur raised his hands and he started to pray, and then he said, while he was praying, his complexion started to change. Like Hazur's chehre ka rang jaise surkh hone laga. And once he was done with the dua, Hazur said, your wife will be fine, go back. Maulana Sahib left, came straight away to where his wife was, probably in Lahore or whichever city she was in. Came back, and I think the doctor or the nurse was waiting for him. And he said, you don't need to tell me anything, I already know my wife is fine. They're like, how do you know? He said, what I want to know is what time her fever subsided. Bukhar kitne baje toota? They went and checked the chart and told him at that hour, that minute, we checked and the fever went down. He said, that is the exact time when I had requested Hazrat Muslim Maud Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu to pray. And he prayed and he told me she will be fine. Next waqia that I have is narrated by Mahmud Qamar Sahib. Many of you are aware who Mahmud Qamar Sahib is. So Mahmud Qamar Sahib of Detroit Jamaat mentioned to me that his father had told him that when he was doing his FSC, meaning Mahmud Qamar Sahib was doing his grade 12, his father told him every single day you have to read your evening prayers in Masjid Mubarak in Rabba. So he's like, it was a long walk or a bike ride, but he would make the effort, and because he would be there, he would also make the effort of writing a letter and dropping the letter off at the private secretary's office in Rabba, which was right next door to Masjid, or part of Masjid Mubarak compound. He says he received 49% in his FSC examination, which is probably barely a passing mark, if anything. In Pakistan, those of you who might not be aware, the passing mark usually is 33%. So 49% is not a fail, but it's not a good grades either. So he says that he got 49%. And he had written to Huzur, and he received a reply from Huzur. When he wrote to Huzur that, he did really bad and, please pray. Hazur sent back, Khalifa Rabi, it was Khalifa Rabi's time. So Khalifa Rabi Ta'ala sent him a letter saying, I have received your letter. And then the word letter was erased or written over. And instead of letter, Hazur then wrote letters. I have received your letters. And either it was from Hazur or from Private Secretary. And then it said that Hazrat Khalifa Rabi Ta'ala is suggesting the following prayer for you. And the prayer was, Rabbi Arini Haqaiq al-Ashya. Now this is one of the ilhamat of Hazrat Aqdas Masih Maud Masih Maud was taught this prayer. So Khalifa Rabi told Mahmud Qamar Sahib, read this prayer. He says, I started reading this prayer and I also did wasiyat. He says, soon after, he had other examinations. He said from 49%, he became the topper of his class. He topped the entire batch. He says then he went for his associate engineering degree in Lahore. Again, he came first. He came on the top of his batch. and received a gold medal. He did other stuff again every single time. Allah Ta'ala blessed him with the top grade and a gold medal. He migrated to America, went to California, got an admission over there in University of California. Again, over there, he came on top, his entire batch, and received a gold medal. And he says that he has received many gold medals from the Jamaat as well. And all of that is linked with that dua of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Rabi, dua of Masih Maud al-Islam that Allah Ta'ala taught him, and Khalifa Rabi Allah Ta'ala told Mahmud Qamar Sahib to pray. Next incident is shared with us by our local Sadr Lajna, Sister Noreen Sahiba. She says regarding her father, Mukarram Chaudhry Habibullah Mazhar Sahib. Chaudhry Habibullah Mazhar Sahib, against him in Pakistan, on 29th of October 1991, the very first blasphemy case against any MD in Pakistan which was registered against the father of our local Sadr Lajna. And she says that he was arrested, and the lower court said that, this is a false case, and, he should not be in jail. Vindicated him. But then the Maulvis and other individuals, they were putting pressure. So the High Court caved in and said his bail is revoked. At that time, she says it was only the prayers of Khalifatul Masih that brought her father back from the clutches of death. Because the punishment for a blasphemy case, according to the Pakistani law, under 295, is death. So her father was practically on death row. And Allah Ta'ala, because of the prayers of Khalifatul Masih, brought him back. And, eventually the case was gone or dropped, and he came out of it as an innocent person, completely vindicated. So this is what the prayers can do for us. Now, the next incident that I want to share is that of my wife. Last year, we planned to visit Hazur Ayyadahullah bin Aziz in January. I had written in September of 2021 that Hazur, I would like to take some time off. My in-laws are in Pakistan, and me and my family had not visited them in 5 years. So I had written for permission if I can get 3 months off, and Hazur graciously approved. And we were working on the passports and everything. And my daughter was about to finish, Zanaya at that time was 4.5, and she was about to finish her first recital of the Holy Quran. Uski Ameen hone wali thi. And her desire was that she wanted to have her Ameen with Hazur. And we didn't know if Hazur would be coming to States. So, I remember I helped Zanaya write a letter, and the letter, I faxed it, and Hazur said, Ameen online to nahi ho sakti. So what's your plan? So then I wrote back to Hazur requesting that, Hazur, I already have from January to March, I have that time off, and we're scheduled to go to Pakistan. If you permit, we can come to London. We can have a stopover in London, and we can have the Ameen in person with you. He said, okay, if you can come, then come. Hazur did not say come. Hazur said, if you can come, then come. Now this phrase, this sentence, this held something in it. It meant that there would be difficulties, and that's exactly what happened. Me and my children, we have nationality here. So we did not need any visa to go to UK. My wife did. She has a Pakistani passport, so she needed a visa. So right away, we applied for the visa, and I tried to pull a fast one in a sense that, being a missionary, I thought, I cannot wait until the visa comes and then buy a ticket at the last minute, because I don't know how long it will take. Even though on the website it said it can take somewhere between, 2 to 4 weeks. But I didn't want to take any chances. And this is October, we're talking about October now. So I purchased the tickets. I purchased the dirt cheap tickets that I could find. And they came with the condition that they cannot be changed, they cannot be cancelled. If I cancel it, there is no refund. So it's all or nothing. So I took my chances. I was like, well, we're trying to go to, the Khalifa, so Allah Ta'ala will come to our help. And then Allah Ta'ala started testing us. The UK consulate or embassy is based in New York. So the passport had to go there first. The passport went there, and unbeknownst to us, UK and many other countries have outsourced their visa program. So there is another company, a private organization, that handles the passports. Now, this company has a very bad reputation. Even now, if you go online and you check them, I'm forgetting the name, but whatever their name is, it's irrelevant. They have really bad rating, and thousands of people have said that. So the flight for UK was scheduled for, I believe, 12th of January. 12th of January, we were scheduled to fly to London. And our flight to Pakistan was from USA. So we were to go to London, spend a week with Azur, come back, and then 5-6 days later, we were scheduled to travel to Pakistan. So December ended, and no passport yet. And now our chutti officially started. So we decided, let's just go to Canada. We don't need a passport to go to Canada. We can just cross over. And we did. And the problem was, I reached out to UK consulate and they said, we do not know where your passport is. We do not know where your passport is. And they said, reach out to this external organization. When I reach out to them, they would just send out a generic message. I was like, how do I get this done? I was like, let me make this on social media. Let me take this to social media. So I took it to social media. Nothing happened. I was like, kya karu? Because if the passport would not arrive in time, we would miss the UK trip. So no mulaqat, no Amin, and few $1,000s gone. The next part was that 1 week or so after the UK trip, we were scheduled to go to Pakistan, and my wife had not seen her parents in 5 years. And if the passport doesn't arrive, then even that trip is gone. So we were looking at substantial amount of money gone to waste. Nothing could have been done about it. And we had nothing else to do other than hitting the prayer rug and, of course, writing to our beloved Huzur. I remember left, right, and center. I told my wife, you write a letter and then I will write a letter, and we'll alternate. So that every single day a letter is going from our house to Huzur. And one Ahmadi Lajna from Virginia worked for a local congresswoman. I don't know how this thought came to us, but something, told us that we should talk to her. So spoke to her, and she said, let me try. She wrote an email on behalf of the local congresswoman. And I think within a few days, and by this time we're in Canada, and 4 days left in our flight. And remember, we had applied 2.5 to 3 months ago for the visa. I get an email that the passport has been released. It doesn't say visa has been issued, remember this. It says passport has been released and has been sent to your nearest UPS. And I'm sitting in Canada, 10 hours drive away. I was like, okay, I cannot take any risk. What if UPS loses it? So same day, got my family back in the car, drove all the way back. And 30 minutes before UPS was to close on that day, we arrived straight at the UPS, went inside, got the passport, opened it, there was the visa inside. We were able to make the flight. Which reminds me of the next incident, which is shared by Nasir Bukhari Sahab, our local General Secretary Sahab. He shared with me that in 2018, when Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Aziz, was visiting USA. His son was to attend a class with Hazur. And you can correct me if I miss anything. And so him and his son Hashir, they were to go on this flight, and this way his son would be able to sit in that class, probably Waqfino class?
Yeah.
Waqfino class. And they were going to the airport and they were running late. And they were running super late, and they feared they were going to miss the flight. So the only thing they had at that time was to pray. That's all they had. They're traveling towards the airport and they're praying. And while they're traveling to the airport, they get a message that the flight has been delayed by 1 hour. Ek hi ghanta tha? Half hour. Just enough for them to arrive at the airport, clear the security, and make it to the gate. And rest assured, they did make the flight, and rest assured, Hashir did attend that class with Hazrat Khalifatul Masih. Next incident is from Mansoor Quraishi Sahab, our Naib Sadr Jamaat. He says that he was attending Jalsa Salana UK. And he was sitting and waiting for the bath ceremony to start. And in his mind, he's already becoming emotional. And his eyes started to well up, and he's like, okay, I'm going to end up crying. And when I'm going to cry, I'm going to be a mess. And so he's like, I'm going to take some tissue papers with me. But he forgot on that day. On that specific day, he forgot to take tissue papers with him. So he had nothing on him. And now his eyes are welling up. Hazur is about to enter. He's getting emotional. He's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. He's like, Allah Ta'ala, if there is ever a time for the acceptance of dua, please let it be this time. I beg you, somehow get me a tissue paper. I don't want to be a mess afterwards. He says, I just made that dua, and right in front of me was a young child who opened his bag and randomly he just took out a tissue paper. वो जो pocket size नहीं होता. He's like, I asked, can I take one? He said yes. And he's like, I prayed to Allah Ta'ala, Jazakallah for, saying to Allah Ta'ala, thank you for listening to my dua in such a short span of time. Again, some may think that this is a small thing. It's not. It's all these things, Allah Ta'ala shows these signs to let you know that He's there for you. If we spend 50 years, 60, 70, 80, 90 years on this planet, and we don't have a single incident where we can say, yes, Allah Ta'ala accepted my dua, or showed me a sign, or showed me a true dream, or sent me an ilham, or something of that nature, something of extraordinary nature that compels you to say that yes, Allah does exist, then that's a moment of worry that you don't even have one. The next, I'll quickly go through these. Next is by one of our dear sisters. She did not share her name. She wrote to me that she was a young lajna at that time, and her local Sadr Lajna told her that you should pray that Allah Ta'ala blesses you with a pious husband. So she says she took that advice to heart. This is the same advice that Hazrat Khalifa Awal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu gave to Hazrat Nawab Mubarakah Begum Sahiba radiyallahu ta'ala anha, who could not have been more than 7 or 8 years of age at that time. Hazur said, बच्चे अपने अच्छे नसीब के लिए, शोहर के लिए, खुदा से अभी से दुआ किया करो, खुदा से ना शर्माना. So in the same vein, the local Sadr Lajna said to, whoever the local Sadr Lajna in that Jamaat was, where this lady came from, told her that, pray for your future husband. So she started praying. And then she wrote to me saying that, Murabbi Sahab, Allah Ta'ala answered my prayer and blessed me with the best spouse that I could have envisioned. Who now, alhamdulillah, now that they have children, is an excellent father as well. Next is by our young Khadim, Ali Ahmed. Ali Ahmed is Dr. Tanveer Saab's son. He shared an incident with me. Last time I mentioned the incident of one of the people from Virginia who wrote an exam and did extremely poor on it, and wrote to Huzur, that Huzur, I did really poor on it, please pray I pass somehow. And when the result came, he received an A along with his entire class. Because the professor's wife, in a fit of rage when they had a fight, threw away all the papers. So the professor had no other option but to give everybody an A in that class. So Ali heard this, and Ali reached out to me a few days ago. And he told me that he was in a similar situation. He had a midterm exam that he did really bad on. And he's like, please pray. And he's like, I'll keep you posted. And then he reached out to me again, I think yesterday or the day before. And he said, just wanted to let you know, alhamdulillah, I passed. And what happened in his case was he did bad as well. And the TA, teacher's assistant, whoever this person was having visa problems. And the university was not paying this individual. And they owed this individual like pay back end pay for, 2-3 months. So whatever happened, the professor was not able to get the papers back in. So he doesn't know what eventually happened, but the end result was that he passed. He got the word from the professor, you have passed. When he did not expect to pass at all, Allah Ta'ala showed him this sign. What did he do? He prayed. He prayed, I prayed, and Hazur was requested and Hazur prayed as well. And last but not least, I want to share this incident because it brings me immense joy. This incident is of my 6-year-old. My daughter Zunaya, me and my wife, we try to inculcate love of Allah Ta'ala and belief in Allah Ta'ala in our young children. So this happened around, I think, sometime last year, a year or so ago. In Virginia, this happened that Zanaya walked up to her mom and said she saw some watch, girl's watch, on one of the YouTube videos. So she went up to her mom and says, Mama, can I get this? And my wife said to her that you should pray to Allah Ta'ala. And usually whenever our children ask us for something, we usually ask them, pray to Allah Ta'ala. And then, we would get them that thing. And then, we would tell them that, look, because you prayed, Allah Ta'ala gave us the tawfiq and, Allah Ta'ala answered your prayer and here's, what you asked for. But this time it was different. Because my wife said that and she forgot. She never told me. And I had zero knowledge about it. And one day, about 2 weeks down the road, I received an Amazon package. So I was shocked because I hadn't ordered anything. So I asked my wife, did you order something? She's like, no. We opened it and it had Zanaya's name. And we opened the package and it was a watch, a girl's watch. I have no idea what's happening here. So I called Zanaya and I was like, Zanaya, this package came for you. I was confused. How did she get a package that has her name on it and it's a girl's watch? And she, with the biggest smile on her face, looks towards her mom and says, Mama, don't you remember? I was asking you the other day that I wanted a watch and you said, ask Allah Mia. And I prayed, this is the exact watch that I wanted. Who sent that watch? A local khadim in that majlis, who was a very good friend of mine, just randomly, out of nowhere. It was no Eid time. It was no nothing. Nothing was around the corner. Out of nowhere, just decided he wanted to send something for Zanaya. And that's what he chose to send. If this is not a sign of acceptance of dua, then I don't know what is. If Allah Ta'ala can show a 5-year-old this sign that he does exist, why would Allah Ta'ala not show you these signs? Why would he not show me these signs? So, let's use this Ramadan in increasing in our love for Allah Ta'ala. If your children have gone astray, pray to Allah Ta'ala with full certainty that He has the power to bring them back and He will bring them back. If your wife is not listening, or if your husband has gone astray, or if your in-laws are not, the ideal in-laws for you, pray to Allah Ta'ala. Say, Allah Ta'ala, soften their hearts up. And pray in such a way with conviction that yes, Allah will make it happen. खुदा के ऊपर कामिल तवक्कुल करते हुए जब आप ये उससे दुआ करेंगे, तो वही खुदा जिसने आंटी बारी को निशान दिखाए, जिसने मौलाना सुल्तान महमूद अनवर साहब की बेगम साहबा को और मौलाना साहब को निशान दिखाए, जिसने महमूद कमर साहब को निशान दिखाए, जिसने इतने दूसरे लोगों को निशान दिखाए, मेरी 6 साल की बच्ची को निशान दिखा सकता है, वो आपको नहीं दिखा सकता। एक आखिरी वाकया सुना के इस बात को खत्म करते हैं। सर कितनी देर रह गई? 6 मिनट्स हैं। आखिरी ये वाकया, आज एक लजना ने मुझे लिखा वाकया, वो कहती हैं कि उन्होंने एक रात ख्वाब में देखा कि उनकी सास जो हैं वो आलू के पराठे बना रही, और आलू के पराठे आमतौर पे इस तरह से बनाए जाते हैं कि आप एक उसकी रोटी की लेयर लेते हैं, स्टफिंग डालते हैं, उसके ऊपर दूसरी रोटी लगा के रख देते हैं, उसको साइडों से बंद कर देते हैं, तो इट्स एक्चुअली स्टफ्ड बिटवीन 2 रोटीज, and you know that's how you get aloo wala paratha. But in her dream she saw that her mother-in-law is making aloo wale parathe, but the way she's making it is different. It's a single roti, and then she's putting the potato stuffing in there, and then she's wrapping that roti in half, and then making it flat, and then so basically a single layered paratha instead of double layered. And usually that's not how it's done. So she wasn't sure why is she seeing this dream, right? What's the purpose of this dream? So next morning when she came to her kitchen, lo and behold, her mother-in-law was indeed making aloo wala paratha, and that is exactly how she was making it. This waqia is not for Qubuliyat dua. This waqia is to show that Allah Ta'ala can show any sign, to let you know that He is there, He exists. Once you have this certainty that Allah Ta'ala does exist, your heart automatically will rush towards Allah Ta'ala, and then everything will become easy. May Allah Ta'ala give us all the ability and the tawfiq that we get closer to Allah Ta'ala and experience His love in a way that we then never become separated from the love of Allah Ta'ala. May our children stay on the right path, and those who are not on the right path, may they come back on the right path. Those who are not experiencing love from their spouses, may Allah Ta'ala bring those spouses back on track as well. Those who are experiencing difficulty from their in-laws, may those in-laws become good towards them as well. May we all collectively become closer to our Khalifatul Masih and also to our Allah the Almighty. May Allah Ta'ala make it so. Ameen. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Muhammadur Rasulullah.